on my planet. There's a legend about people like you. It's called Footloose. And in it, a great hero named Kevin Bacon. He teaches an entire city full of people with sticks up their butts that dancing, well, it's the greatest thing there is.
Dance off, bro! Me and you!
Pull me up on my knees. Check, get back. Come on, you pull me back. Lose, you're loose. Everybody cut for loose.
Subtle, take it back.
We're just like Kevin Bacon.
I have a confession. I have been a giant Marvel fan for most of my life, so I think I'll go over, in detail, everything I knew about the Guardians of the Galaxy before I saw the trailers for this movie. They existed. That's it. Before this movie, I'd never even read a Guardians of the Galaxy comic book. Now, I am a big comic book fan, and a big fan of Marvel comics in particular, so I did read the Infinity Gauntlet storylines, and was familiar with the character of Drax the Destroyer. But the version from that comic series and the version from this movie are both very different. I was familiar with the characters of Star-Lord and Gamora, but I really hadn't read much about them. I just knew they existed. Rocket and Groot were characters I knew nothing about until this movie. It was a downright bizarre choice of Marvel to make this their first non-Avengers movie. Of course, they like to call the Guardians the Cosmic Avengers, but all that means is basically the other guys in space. This would be the only movie between Avengers 1 and 2 that isn't a sequel, and because of this, provides Marvel with their only real slot to possibly introduce a new Avenger in the mix with their own movie first. But instead, they chose to do a completely separate team that has no relation to the Avengers, except that there was an Avenger with this lineup of the Guardians. I have my theory about why Guardians of the Galaxy was made before any other of the more popular properties or Avengers that Marvel currently has. The Guardians have had many different incarnations over the decades. The version this movie was based off of featured Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Groot, Rocket, and Iron Man. That's right, Iron Man in his space armor. He was the human character to help the reader relate to all the crazy space crap. Sure, they also have Star-Lord, but he's only half human, and at that point in the comic book, he knew his alien father and had serious issues with him. With Robert Downey Jr. being the biggest star of the MCU, they likely developed the script with the hopes that Downey would be interested, but when he declined, probably wanting way more money than they were willing to pay, Marvel might decide that they liked the script, so move forward anyway. But that's just my little theory. I'd made mistakes before, and this movie has too.
Enough nonsense, Ravager! Time to...
Yeah, guys, just look at that spear while it kills all your friends. Don't try to kill the guy whistling or somehow try to stop the spear in any way. Yeah, I don't see how that could go poorly. Good plan.
The P-L-A-N plan.
Drax decides to make this simile.
I think of Sakaran as paper people.
But earlier in the movie, they explain.
His people are completely literal. Metaphors are gonna go over his head.
Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it.
And while a simile is not a metaphor, the reason he doesn't understand metaphors is because
his people are completely literal.
So if he thinks of them as paper people, surely he must think they are made of paper. It's the only reason a completely literal person would think of a people as a paper people. And you might think, but he's learning how not to take things so literally. That's how come he makes that statement. But later, we get this.
Finger to the throat means death. Metaphor. Sorta.
So yeah, Drax must literally think of them as paper people.
I think of Sakaran as paper people.
Star-Lord gets really amazing sound quality from that Walkman. Not to mention that tape has to be worn to shit. Oh wait, it's only been heavily used for 26 years? I'm certain that tape would still be playable with full digital quality.
That dreams belong to other men. 'Cause each time I got close.
Listen to these words.
I'm usually pretty forgiving, especially if the filmmakers at least showed evidence of putting some thought into explaining this, but our explanation here is very simple and easy to miss if you aren't looking for it. And I'm going to have to call bullshit on it. The reason I'm doing that is because none of the other characters appears to have a translator installed, and I would honestly think it logical that all the characters would have a translator installed, but instead everyone just seems to speak perfect English to each other. A translator chip would only help Peter understand the alien languages, but I don't see how it would help him speak them at all. All the other characters would need translators, otherwise the system just wouldn't work. Then you also get an issue with Drax's inability to understand metaphors. Wouldn't the translator help him with that? Now, the filmmaker's excuse for everybody speaking in English and for everything being written in English is that the movie is from Peter's perspective. The problem is we have scenes that are clearly not from Peter's perspective. Like we have the scenes of Corman Day and his friend just talking about Peter, and they're the ones looking at the information. It's all clearly in English, and they're speaking in English. Not to mention the scenes with Ronan and Thanos. Clearly, they would have no need to speak English, but there they are, plain as day, speaking English. Best excuse I can think of. When Peter was abducted in 1988, his backpack was filled with dictionaries. The aliens must have loved the language written in it, and it became the galactic language over the next 26 years. And that just shows you that the galaxy is faster and more effective at change than the United States government. I hate drawing attention and continuity, but I need to fill up this list, and let's face it, let's not focus on him singing into a space rat, and then clearly show him not having the space rat, and then show him singing into it again. Let's keep it fucking clean. Marvel, just stop with these cookie-cutter villains. These guys that do evil for the sake of being evil. It's boring. Shockingly, Phase 1 had a better rogues gallery than Phase 2. The only villain that fit this mold in Phase 1 was Red Skull, who was played by Hugo Weaving, and is a character who is evil just for the sake of being evil. In Phase 2, we've gotten Malekith and Ronan. That's half the villains in this phase so far. What got Ronan started on this dark path? Why does he have this crazy belief set? Why does he have an oversized hammer? Is he compensating for something?
The hammer is my penis.
Marvel, you need to break this habit. If the only villain you can think of is a villain who's evil for the sake of being evil, then you seriously need to rethink your villain. When I first saw this in theaters, one of my complaints was I felt Dave Bautista's performance didn't stand out for everyone else. But with repeat viewings, I have to retract that statement because, honestly, I think he kind of nails it. He just isn't as bold or in your face as everyone else.
You're right. I was a fool. All the anger, all the rage. It's just to cover my loss.
But that's needed to balance out everyone else's insanity. And it does work since Drax has his own morose homicidal insanity that he contributes to the group. He gives a performance equal to or perhaps greater than a lot of the main cast. And with this movie, that's a huge accomplishment since everyone does a great job. This movie is fun, and I simply cannot think of a better word to describe it. The core members of the Guardians of the Galaxy all feel like fully fleshed out characters. each with their own moments to shine. I do really feel like the villains get a bit crowded here. You have Nebula, Thanos, Korath, and the previously mentioned Ronin. With all these villains and a pretty big supporting cast, the movie is a clusterfuck. But by some miracle, it doesn't feel like that at all. It feels like a fluid story, which is amazing since it's mostly comedy with dramatic moments that pop up and yet don't feel out of place.
Well, I didn't ask to get made! I didn't ask to be torn apart and put back together over and over and turned into some little monster!
You know, a movie did something right when it has you taking a talking raccoon seriously. Honestly, while I can throw all the nitpicks I want, I can't say any of the things I bring up really bug me. Only thing I would change is to figure out a way to better explain Ronin's character. And I'm not alone with that opinion.
Well, I will say we had to cut down on our villain plots quite a bit, so it's pretty simple. You know, it's the way people are in movies. They like, they really like watching our heroes. So,
yes.
I wish there was a little bit more Ronin in there. A little bit more Thanos, perhaps. But
honestly, the fact that he recognizes the greatest weakness with his own film really gives me great confidence for Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where the Guardians team up with the Hulk. Okay, so I think that's probably a long shot. Still, it should be awesome, just like this movie was. Since it's clear they're pursuing the Infinity War storyline, Guardians of the Galaxy franchise really makes sense. It allows us to explore other parts of the galaxy besides Earth and Asgard, which is where we've been limited to at this point. We see the sheer scope of the galaxy on Nowhere, which is literally a mining colony that exists inside the head of a Celestial. Fans of the Infinity Gauntlet comic books will know the Celestials as the beings called upon to fight Thanos when everything else fails. We see some more Thanos, and I know I'm in the minority, but I actually like Josh Brolin's voice as Thanos.
Your politics bore me. Your demeanor is that of a pouty child. And apparently, you alienated my favorite daughter, Gamora.
He doesn't sound super badass, but that makes sense. Thanos is a very flawed character. He actually has many self-made weaknesses. His voice is not the source of his intimidation. It's his accomplishments that make him intimidating. The villain is a big issue, but to his credit, Lee Pace does as good a job as possible with the material. I really want to have the evil for the sake of evil, boring-ass villain reflected in the score, but I can't. There's just too much awesome in this movie. I can't help but give it a 10 out of 10. It's the 4th best movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is certainly a huge twist for people who have been following the road to the Age of Ultron. But it's not done yet. In a few days I'll be releasing a follow-up video concluding the Marvel theme by going over how Marvel became the big name it is, despite not having the 2 biggest superheroes under their belt, and even missing their own biggest superheroes. My top 5 reason it sucks, or does it series, will be limited to a release once every 2 weeks to allow me to catch up on other projects. And once I'm caught up, I'll go back to once a week. Every week though, I'll do a new video, so don't worry too much about less content. Next week, I'll release my knee-jerk reactions to the most anticipated movie of the summer. Yes, I know it's obvious. I am talking about Age of Adeline. Hey, if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe. That helps me out a lot. And if you really love this video, consider visiting my Patreon page. Every video I make takes conservatively an average of 1 hour per minute for me to produce. And the ad revenue on these videos does not give me a very large return. So if you go to my Patreon and only want to contribute $1, that's just fine. That helps me out a lot. I plan on adding some new rewards, such as DVD box sets of my videos, as well as t-shirts. If there's other rewards you'd like to see happen, please let me know. For more information, make sure to visit my Patreon page.